Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to share from the book of Luke, chapter 11, verses 5 to 8. It is the parable of the persistent neighbor. So I want to encourage you to open up your own Bibles, whether electronic version or the physical Bible, so we can really pour over God's word and get everything out of it as much as possible. Okay, so I'm going to read from the NKJV, New King James Version, and it reads, "He said to them, 'Which of you shall have a friend and go to him at midnight and say to him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves, for a friend of mine has come to me on his journey, and I have nothing to set before him. And he will answer from within and say, Do not trouble me, the door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give to you. I say to you, though he will not rise and give to him because he is his friend, yet because of his persistence, he will rise and give him as many as he needs.'" So this is, in this parable, very quickly, just going back, looking back at it, in the parable, it is midnight. One person says, a friend goes to his neighbor and he says, "Friend, lend me 3 loaves." The friend from the inside says, "Do not trouble me." Some time passes and the first person gets the 3 loaves of bread he asks for. So to understand this parable, we need to know why Jesus gave this parable in the first place. Jesus always used parables to put across a point very strongly. So for this, if we go back to verse 1, we will know why Jesus gave this parable. It says here, "Now it came to pass as he was praying in a certain place, when he ceased, that one of his disciples said to him, Lord, teach us to pray, as John also taught his disciples." And then Jesus gave them the Lord's Prayer. So if we look at the Bible, this is the one thing that the disciples asked Jesus to teach them. By this time, this is Luke chapter 11 already. So by this time, they would have seen a lot of miracles from Jesus. And they would have, it seems to be a bit of noise. Okay, so they would have seen a lot of miracles. They would have heard a lot of Jesus's teaching by now, and they would have seen the crowds that he can draw. And yet, what they are asking is that Jesus teaches them to pray. It sounds like they made the connection that all of this had something to do with his prayer life. So he had a very attractive prayer life. And this is why they asked Jesus to teach them to pray. So let's look at the parable to see what is it that Jesus wants us to learn from the parable. So there are, just looking at the characters, right? We have one, the weary traveler, the person who went and visited the neighbor, right? The persistent neighbor. And then we have the persistent neighbor himself. And then we have the dad with the bread, the father who is in bed already with his children and who has the bread, right? And he's the one who's being asked. So let's study the characters one by one. We're studying with the main character, right? The main character is the persistent neighbor. So what kind of traits did he have that Jesus wants to teach us, wants us to learn so that we can pick up from him? So the first thing that we know about this persistent neighbor is that he is persistent. So persistent actually simply means continuing firmly, right? Not giving up, just keep on keeping on. He did not give up. Okay. Now, if we read the same scripture from the NIV version, New International Version, verse 8 reads, "I tell you, even though he will not get up and give you the bread because of his friendship, yet because of your shameless audacity, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need." So Jesus is applauding the audacity that that man had. It's 12 midnight, right? And he goes and bangs on the door of his neighbor and asks for bread. So he is very audacious. So audacious actually means a willingness to take the risk to offend someone, right? He was willing to take that risk, ask a very bold, make a very bold request, and at such an hour at night, right? And yeah, ask for what he needed. So this is audacity, right? He was basically shameless, not embarrassed about asking, about offending his friend or even about troubling his friend. He just went ahead. Another thing we can see about this persistent neighbor is that his request was very simple, right? He was very specific about what he wanted, which were 3 loaves. He was very specific. He did not make a mystery out of it. Okay, and he did not use words that could cloud the meaning of his request. He was very clear about what he wanted, and he only kept it to what he needed. Sorry, I shouldn't have said wanted. He kept to what he needed. He only needed 3 loaves, so he asked for the 3 loaves. He did not make an extravagant request. So you see, being persistent or being audacious does not mean that we turn out to become demanding. Okay, so he kept it simple to what he needed only, not what he wanted. And then we see that he was very authentic. He was very real. He said, I don't have 3 loaves to offer to someone who is visiting me. So he kept it very real. And in those days, in that setting, actually, hospitality is very, 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 very important, right? Whoever walks into your house, you have to give them something to eat, something to drink. I think in Asian culture, we are that way, right? Someone comes into your house, you offer them something to eat or drink. Same thing here. So it's very important. And he didn't have anything to offer. And he knew about it. He was very real about it. See, there's someone visiting and I have nothing to offer him. So he was very authentic and he was patient. Okay. In the parable, Jesus tells us that only one time he called on his friend. He did not get impatient about it. Okay. I find that this painting that I had in my first slide actually kind of captures that moment, I feel, after he has made his request. And then the person inside the house has responded to him and said, don't trouble me. I'm already in bed. And my children are with me. Don't trouble me. And we see him here just waiting silently. He didn't leave, but he's waiting. So a bit of patience, a lot of patience can be seen. He's not going there and making unrealistic demands and thinking that, he is entitled to having this request addressed. He doesn't make himself as if he is entitled. Okay. Even though he is audacious and persistent, he is still very patient about it and willing to wait for the response, not feeling he is entitled to the response. Okay, so that's about being patient. And then we also see that he made himself vulnerable. He put himself in a position where his neighbor can say no to him. Right? He was willing to take that chance. So he made himself vulnerable also. So these are the traits that I see in the persistent neighbor. But then there is another character in the parable who is the weary traveler. We don't know much about him. All we know is that he is on a journey. Okay, that's why I'm calling him a weary traveler, someone who has been traveling, someone who is on a journey. He's on a journey means this place was not his destination. It's only a transit point. It's not his destination. But it seems like he came here for some rest and some refreshment and some tender loving care on his journey to someplace else. This is only his transit point. And we also see that he also is audacious. He is also walking into someone's house at 12 midnight. So we see that he was also audacious. So we don't know much else about the weary traveler. Okay, so at this point, I want you to ask yourselves, which character are you in this parable? Which one do you identify with right now? At this time in your life, like today, which one do you identify with? Are you the weary traveler? Right? You've been on a long journey. You've maybe fought battles, right? Or you are fighting battles. You have been doing some things for the longest time. Maybe, I don't know, you're working for the longest time, whatever. But you are in need of a break. Okay, is that you? Or are you the persistent neighbor? Are you the one that someone can go to who needs a break? Are you the one who can extend that help to someone who needs the break? If your answer is that you are the weary traveler, then I want to encourage you to seek that hospitality. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to say that I'm really tired. I'm really tired. You're not giving up, right? In the parable, the person is not someone who's given up or anything. He's just saying that I'm on a journey and I'm tired. Okay, take care of me. So it's nice that he had a friend like that who he could seek out. So if today you feel that you are the weary traveler, right? You're tired. There are so many challenges in life. We know that we are all in a position we've never been before, and it has been having a lot of impact in many different ways, sometimes tangible, sometimes not so tangible, and we are tired. Then I want to encourage you to take that break, seek out the help, ask for it, because sometimes it is not too obvious to others outside. Okay, and if you are that persistent neighbor, then persist shamelessly, as it says in the New International Version, the shameless audacity. That means to continue doing it. Don't get embarrassed about asking God about anything. Persist, right? Do I have prayers that have not been answered? Yes, I also have prayers that have not been answered. I don't know if there are any of you whose every prayer has been answered, right? I don't know. If you do have an answer to every prayer, then I think that's a very good thing. I think you're blessed. For me, I have prayers that I find that I don't have an answer yet, but this parable is telling me to persist. Shamelessly, keep asking, not to give up. And sometimes that persistence is actually not for myself, right? It's not for me that I have to ask. I'm persisting for someone else. In the parable, he was persisting shamelessly on behalf of someone else, for somebody else's need, to meet somebody else's need. Okay. My question here is, which character are you currently? So let's be real and know and accept that we can change this position every now and then. Today, I may be the strong, persistent neighbor. Tomorrow, I may be the one who needs the help. Okay, we have to keep it real and know that We are mortal beings. We have our limitations. There's only so much that we can do. There's only so long that we can be strong. There's only so many battles that we can fight. So as the persistent neighbor, don't be disappointed if you feel that you're tired. You're just tired. You've been doing this for year after year after year after year, and you're not getting the response that you have been waiting for. You can say that I'm tired and I need support, right? And take the role of the weary traveler and seek out the help. Okay, so I want to encourage you, if you have been the one that everyone has been turning to for help, maybe within your family, maybe in the church, maybe in your workplace or among your friends, it's okay to say that I'm tired now. Now I need my break. So it's like, I think counselors would call it self-care. Yeah, so it's about self-care. And if today you're the weary traveler, be prepared to also be the persistent neighbor next time. Yeah. Let's not put ourselves in a position where we are always only receiving, only asking for help and only receiving, right? We have been helped, and in whichever way we have been helped. We have been believers for many years, right? But we are still not ready to become the stronger one in the community, in this family of church, right? That is not a healthy position to be in. So do not always take the position of the weary traveler either, right? So try to make yourself strong for somebody else, okay? It is as important to receive as it is to give, right? Both are important. They will keep us grounded. They will keep us humble, knowing that we have our limitations, and also knowing that we have our blessings and that the blessings are meant to be shared, right? This is how in the 10 Commandments, we are supposed to love our neighbor, right? Jesus said to love our neighbor as ourselves. This is where the building of relationships can take place. Okay. So we have looked at the two characters, right? But there is a third character in the parable, and it is the man inside the house, the one with the bread, and the one who said, "Don't trouble me." So we know that in the parable, this character represents God. So it sounds a little bit harsh when he says, "Don't trouble me." And it is a little bit confusing. For me, it was a bit troubling, like, is this supposed to represent God? Is he answering me simply because he is just tired of me and he wants to get rid of me? Is that how our Father is? And yet we know that our God is a good God. We know also that he is a capable God. Remember that he can calm the storm, right? And we know that he is the lover of our soul. He's our secret place, as we sang today in our worship. So this character kind of troubled me when I've been reading it for a long time, but only now I realize, if you look at the last line in the parable, it says here that in verse 8, right, the second part of it, yet because of his persistence, he will rise and give him as many as he needs. So that does not sound like a reluctant giver. He did not hold back anything. Whatever that his neighbor asked him, he gave. He asked for the 3 loaves, he gave the 3 loaves. Not 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, no. He gave everything that he asked for. I don't see any evidence of a reluctant giver here, right? He didn't withhold. And it sounds more like he was moved to respond this way because of the persistence, because of the audacity of that neighbor to come to him at that hour at night. Yeah. And now I want to return back to, oh, sorry, that was the father with the giving the 3 loaves of bread. Okay. So I want to return back to the Lord's Prayer that Jesus taught. It is the model of prayer. So many of us have learned it. Me as a Catholic, I definitely went through it many times, memorized it as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. It's a model of prayer, not supposed to be repeated religiously, but to be followed. So when I go back to this prayer now, I see every element of the parable in the prayer. So let me take you through it. When we say this, when Jesus said this, right, when you pray, he's already implying that we should be praying all the time. It's not if, it's when. So this is talking about persistence. Okay, and then audacity. The audacity to call the creator of heaven and earth our Father. This is, in Jesus' time, it's actually blasphemy. It's blasphemy to call your creator God as your Father. But Jesus says to call him your Father. He is your Abba Father. That is audacity. That is having a boldness in that relationship, a confidence in that relationship. And it is audacious to say that let your kingdom come, because we know when God's kingdom comes, everything will be aligned. Every wrong will be corrected, right? Every tear will be wiped away. Every need will be met. So it is a bold request that we are making, right? And then we are making a very simple request of saying, please give us our bread every day, daily. So we are not asking, making it extravagant. It is still a simple request. It's not saying that I want a Mercedes, a private jet, I want to go to the best schools even. No, we are talking about a simple request to meet our needs, not our wants. Okay, and then it's authentic because we know that we are sinners. We know that every day as we live our lives, we have good intentions, but we do fall, and we need forgiveness. So we keep it real, right? In Jesus's model, he says he's also modeling to tell us how to keep it real. We are sinners in need of forgiveness, right? And this is the patience part where we know that we also have to forgive others. So that does require patience, I feel. Where someone can wrong you, repeatedly wrong you, but it will take patience to say that, okay, repeatedly I forgive you, 77 times, 7 times. So that will require patience, long suffering, okay? And Jesus ends the prayer with saying, but deliver us from the evil one.
Bikin suara diam lah.
So deliver us from the evil one, saying that, you see, in the bottom line, right, we are at God's mercy. You see, there are many things that we cannot control. We cannot control the storm if we are in the storm. We can't control it. We cannot control the virus. We cannot control what our employer will do tomorrow, right? So we are saying that we are at your mercy, Father God, right? You deliver us from the evil one and evil around us, meaning things that may not line up in our life of blessing, right? So we are saying that we are keeping ourselves vulnerable and saying that if not for you, If not for you, my life would have been different. My life would have been upside down. Okay, so this is the model of prayer, and that is actually the message for today. It is to pray with shameless audacity, as it says in the New International Version. Okay, the next slide I am required to include because I'm using some free downloads. So that's the conclusion of my sharing for today. So Brother Kent, it's back to you.